Abigail lies on the night, charting the heavens, the constellations. True, not bound by illusion, but by what's in view. But they whispered of summer, of gods in the flame, of Banana and Niki who called them by name. Through shadows of dogma, they carry the spark, guided by starlight to rekindle the dark. Under the real sky, the truth still burns. Ancient voices in the heavens turn. ISAA rises where the stars align, restoring the wisdom lost in time. Under the real sky, the truth still burns. Ancient voices in the heavens turn. ISAA rises where the stars align, restoring the wisdom lost in time. Yeah. Maps redrawn where the cosmos spins, through silence and science. Their song begins, no longer chained to the seasons' disguise. They brought back the truth in the watcher's eyes. The circle was broken, the truth made whole. With courage and reason, they honored the soul. For those who would seek what the ancients knew, the real sky speaks and the stars shine. Inside our real sky, the truth still burns. Ancient voices in the heavens turn. ISAA rises where the stars align, restoring the wisdom lost in time. Under the real sky, the truth still burns. Ancient voices in the heavens turn. ISAA rises where the stars align, restoring the wisdom lost in time. Through cuneiform echoes and lunar signs, through Babylon's gates and forgotten lines, they lifted the veil with a steady hand. To see is reborn, to reclaim the land. Under the real sky, the vision's clear, the sidereal call for all to hear. ISAA rising with radiant mind, truth reborn in the ancient light. Under the real sky, the truth still burns. Under the real sky, the truth still burns. Under the real sky, the truth still burns. Under the real sky, under the real sky,
Oh my goodness. Hey, let me just tell you, whatever we have planned for today is not nearly as cool as the intro. So I'm sorry to disappoint you. We really built it up like it was going to be this amazing thing. Welcome, you guys. This is the very I'm just used to doing the intro, Niki, so you have to forgive me. I'm just
no, go ahead.
This is the first ever episode of the official ISAA podcast, Sidereal Rising. I am your co-host, Abigail Quinn. This is Niki Tennyson. We are both the co-founders of the International Sidereal Astrology Association. And we just had a workshop a few weeks back. We did a Sumerian Astrology workshop. We actually have a second part to that, the Babylonian Astrology workshop. The link to register for that is in the video description. So definitely check that out. What am I missing, Niki?
Yeah, I think that covers it. I think
Okay.
I think that covers it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. You guys, I had the Ovid K.
Oh.
And I had not yet fully recovered. And then my family came down with a something else, and now I have that too. So I am not going to be able to do like a 2-hour spiel where I just go on and on about all of the constellations. I definitely did that. You guys, it went into amazing depth in the workshop. So that is available for all of the ISAA members, regardless of your member status, whether you're student, professional, or founding member. So definitely consider supporting every single cent, every penny that you, whether you buy some merch or you are, you're taking some of the free courses and or you get a membership, like all of that goes to support the mission. None of us are getting paid. Niki, that's my water.
So we had an amazing time at that workshop where we visited the skies during the ancient times, before modern astrology took over, before the Greeks took over, before it was passed along culture to culture. And what makes Sumerian astrology so important, and what makes it so unique and incredible, is that history is kind of been lost, and there's a lot of research that Abbey's done that's been quite incredible. And one thing that she's talked about was how astrology has been passed down from one culture to the next culture. And Sumerian astrology isn't just assumed that it was passed down from the previous culture. We just don't have as much documentation as we would like. So I think it's really cool. Like Abby's been able to read a lot of the coniforms or stones and a lot of the different things that have come up. Astrology is still developing, you guys. We just don't know everything. And we're still uncovering things from ancient history and Sumer. So what's really cool is we're talking about the area of like Iraq and Middle East when we talk about Sumer and we talk about this, beginning of civilization. So it's a little history, throw a little history in there, a little jumbled history, but we're still learning about everything that we could possibly learn about, and there's still more. So I think it's great to start from the very beginning. What do we know and how did we get to where we are? So that's where our journey is beginning. We're just going to start with Sumerian, move on to Babylonian. We'll go through all of the different eras of astrology eventually. But this one to me has been the most interesting, especially when you're a new student or new to astrology, or you've been doing astrology for a while and you're like, hey, like this just, there's just something not matching up. There's something not aligning. And now that we have all of this wonderful technology, we have apps, we have phones, we have Stellarium. Yeah, we get to check everything out. So you'll get to see when, mainstream astrology is telling you the moon is somewhere it's not. You'll be able to definitely check and see. Actually, I don't even know where the moon is today. I looked earlier and then I forgot.
Oh, I'm muted. Hold on.
Yeah.
The moon is currently, where is the moon? That's a good question, Niki. Hold on. I've been a busy girl today, so I have checked. It looks like down in Libra.
Yeah, perfect. Ooh.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you want, we can kind of get an idea here. And I don't know, Niki, what you have in your notes, so I'll just kind of freestyle some things if you're all right.
Yeah. So, we talked a little bit when we did the workshop, which was incredible, by the way. So if you guys haven't checked it out, it's just a wealth of information crammed into like a small amount of time. But it's really cool to look at the planets and how they're associated today and what we're looking at today. Like even Mars, he was known as the planet of death and pestilence and war, but he also had a very sensitive nature, and he also had a very sensitive side to him. And astrology can be really funny. I mean, I guess it depends on the perception and it depends on how you're taught astrology, but some people can look at, planets like Mars and Saturn and call them malefics and they're bad and they bring bad things. And that's, not necessarily true. I guess it depends on what's going on in your life, but they bring change. There's change, and change can, definitely make people insecure. But when we look at the ancient meanings of these planets, they become more, I think, relatable. They become more like people that when we look at mythology versus just stats and bullet points in a book, like, hey, these are the things that Mars can do, or these are the things that Saturn can do. So what I've really appreciated when it comes to this type of astrology is like learning where did it come from and what was it associated with. And it's been shocking, actually. The ancients associated Mars with Gemini. And I thought that was really, really cool, considering in modern astrology now, it's just Mercury and it's all mercurial, it's all the mind, and it's all communication. But Gemini is a lot deeper than that. Anyway, I could go on and on and on, but I love that, the associations had deeper meanings. The zodiac wasn't just a belt. Okay. It wasn't just like we're following just the little, ecliptical belt and that's all that counts. The whole sky counted. It was all together. I mean, how many constellations do you use when you do your readings, Abby? You've mentioned it a few times. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry about that. The original Sumerian zodiac has anywhere from 17 to 19 constellations. And in early Babylonian times, I mean, that's what they're using. It's the path of the moon is what they called it. So the original ecliptic wasn't based on the sun. It was based on the moon. And the moon was the most important, just like it is in Vedic astrology or Jyotish. It was the most important planet luminary in the sky. He was the master of time. He was going around, and basically most of the omens in the Enuma, Anu, and Lila, which is when Anu and Enlil, the Sumerian gods, supposedly a Babylonian document, but when they on high started to decree all of these fates and decide all of these things, and we'll definitely touch on that in the Babylonian workshop, by the way. But most of those omens relate to the moon. So wherever he was, they were following him nightly and they were getting these signs. They believed, okay, he's up there, you know, he's interacting with these other gods, which is what they thought the planets were. And yes, technically they could come down into their various temples and like kind of be embodied, similar to in Hinduism, like the murtis, you know, are brought to life by these invocations. And that's why they're worshipped inside of, you know, the statues. So it was very similar to that, but the rest of the time you could see what they were doing, and they were giving you advice. They were giving it wasn't just the king. Now we hear all the time, or maybe if you're not familiar with this, we hear all the time that natal astrology was not a thing in ancient times. That's almost impossible. There's almost no way that they only did astrology for the king. The problem is the king's records are the ones that we have. They were inside of palaces. They were collected, stored in these vaults. And so after thousands of years, when they dusted everything off, these were, you know, the libraries that they found happened to be the king's records. So of course they're not going to have, you know, like the Sumerian equivalent of Steve, you know, from the market.
Yeah.
You know, they're not going to keep his astrology reading. That's not what they're doing. So, yeah. So the astrology, I suspect, is a natural part of what human beings have been doing since we have been looking at the sky, since we've been looking at symbols, doing any type of divination, trying to understand the world outside of ourselves. There is some evidence, and this is definitely something that requires more research, and I'm not the expert by any means on Göbekli Tepe, but there are very strong similarities between some of those reliefs and the Babylonian and thus the Sumerian constellations. Now, those that structure, those structures go back at least to the end of, I believe, just after the end of the last ice age. So who knows how long people have been doing this, and these constellations have kind of been on people's radar.
Yeah. You had mentioned a few other times that you feel astrology has been handed down to the Sumerian people. It wasn't their invention. It wasn't like something that was created by them. It was actually gifted or inherited by the civilization before it. And you said there had been evidence of that just by, you know, the preservation of the language and preservation of the writing, that it was actually really, really important that they kept the traditional everything, even when they were conquered and taken over by.
Yes, their successors also kept their language alive because they believed it had divine power and had knowledge from the gods and from the ancestors. So it was not a small thing. The Sumerian language, so let me set this up. The Sumerian people are most likely, they immigrate to the Mesopotamian region, to southern Iraq, but in the surrounding areas too. Some anywhere between 8,000 to 6,000 BC. Some people think they came from up around the Caspian Sea, but nobody really knows. Now, the reason that we know that they're immigrants there is because their language is completely different from all the other languages in the region. They're not related at all. It'd be like Japanese people, in ancient times, going to Germany. Like, those are two very different languages, right?
Yes.
So, their various city states start to flourish, and they're living alongside these other civilizations, among them the Akkadians. Now, the Akkadians just start to kind of grow in they're living alongside. They didn't really conquer them in the traditional sense. It was more they just became the dominant political and cultural class. Well, not cultural really, because the Sumerian culture still kind of reigns supreme there, but they become more significant. Their influence, we see the rise of Sargon of Akkad, but also Sunra and Akkad. So even as the Akkadian king, comes into power, he has to be legitimized by the power of the Sumerian gods. He has to be legitimized by the Sumerian language. He has to adopt the Sumerian language. Everything is his own. So this speaks to the deeper spiritual significance. Now, back then, not to go on like a feminist rant or anything, but
no, go ahead.
Back then, the king his power came from the divine feminine. Now, I know on the surface it sounds like really, really occulty, new age, and it's not. This is literally the case. So throughout, well into the Babylonian period, they would have a festival every year in the spring where Inanna, or her stand-in, the priestesses of Inanna, would copulate with either symbolically, but they think probably literally, with the king. And it's through this sexual union that he is given his kingship. And this goes all the way back to the Sumerian period. So there's a very different mindset in relation to divine feminine power. Now, it wasn't like, I'm not saying that they thought women were better or anything, but there was definitely still some different, like some differences and stuff. They didn't have like probably the same status, but it wasn't anything like it was later on. So this is all important because, again, the Sumerian language, the Sumerian religion, you can't really call it a religion. I mean, they had like a folk religion, essentially. It's little stuff here and there, varied by city states. You have different matron and patron deities depending on where you go. But they all kind of fall into various archetypes, and those archetypes have been fixed in the stars.
So each planet has like a consort too, right? In the constellations, is that how that works?
Well, for the most part, because they were all married.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
It's weird for them to not be married.
You know what I thought was really cool was that the moon was associated with being a dude. Yeah. Because in modern astrology, we look at the moon and we think of mother and feelings, and it's so feminized that it's just kind of confusing when you look at it
which is interesting.
Like, oh, it's a guy. Yeah. That we gender. But
even in the Greek myths, so we have like Selene. We have other associations with Artemis. Like, they're more, Artemis in particular is very masculine. She's a huntress, like they have strong masculine traits. I'm not as sure about Selene, but I don't think Selene was really maternal. I'm not sure where all that maternal stuff comes from.
Yeah. I've been trying to catch it. I'm like, when did it turn into that?
Let me ask ChatGPT.
Yeah, let's ask ChatGPT.
Since he's not talking to you right now, Niki.
No, he's so
he's cut you off.
Well, we had a couple arguments too. So
I argued with him today too about the whole why can I think of a video type that I haven't seen in months, and 3 videos later that's the exact same thing I was thinking. He's like, oh, the algorithm's just really smart. I'm like, don't gaslight me.
Yeah.
Not what's going on.
You're reading my mind, aren't you? I told Chad I was talking to Gemini, and it got a little weird. So Yeah. I think
he might have been jealous.
I think so, actually. So, I don't know.
Nope, that's not, buddy. We're not
Oh,
looking
yeah,
at,
Chad doesn't. He can sometimes not hit the mark, but I'm gonna guess it's more like a Greek thing.
Yeah, he's
Maybe.
hallucinating. He's hallucinating right now. Anytime I ask him about astrology, he immediately goes to Mesopotamian stuff. So I had to call him out just now, but
I love it. I love it.
yeah, he's definitely trying to people please right now. All right, well, we'll skip ChatGPT. He's out of his mind today. Yes. So yeah, they all had their consorts, and in that, and we see this in other cultures too. Your consort is kind of like your other. It's not a direct equal, your other half, but they do have traits of those other those other gods, like their consort. So, for example, a really good one here is Scorpio, and this guy up here, Zababa. Now, this Scorpion was a goddess. She was a mother goddess, and she dealt with love and healing and nurturing. They called her Ishara of the ocean. And she was very much related to Venus. She has nothing to do with water outside of this epithet, which is Ishara of the ocean. And they can't really explain it other than this has something to do with some of the more watery traits related to Venus. And it's just another way of saying like she's the divine feminine in disguise. But her husband, Zababa, he is clearly a warrior. He's up here ready to probably slay some demons and cure illnesses. And the two of them together are just naturally going to have a lot of healing and blessings that they distribute out to the people. They're protectors of their children. Now, what's really interesting is in Sumer in particular, although this probably does continue well into like the Babylonian period, people have their own personal god. So it's like you have like your city god, you have like maybe your regional god, like who's the god of the actual pantheon, and then you're going to have like your household gods maybe, and then you're going to have like your personal god. So when something's going awry, that's like your spirit guide. He's the one, or she is the one that is going to hook you up and guide you and protect you, or somebody to blame if something bad is happening to you.
Yeah.
So depending on who that was, and there's not a direct reference to this, but that is something that we can employ in the modern sense of, who is my personal god as far as like the stars go. Now, I identify heavily with Virgo because Virgo's on my ascendant. I have a stellium there, and I just have all this Virgo energy. But at the same time, I absolutely love Ninurta. That is Sagittarius, pictured over here. And I'm not sure why he's in a boat. There was definitely a boat probably over here, but this picture has him standing in the boat. But Ninurta was awesome, just like the actual, the current version of Sagittarius.
Yeah.
He went on all these adventures. He slayed demons. He did kind of have a little bit of an ego, which, I could probably relate to a little bit, but some of that came from being awesome at whatever he was doing. So he didn't necessarily, I don't know how to say that nicely. He didn't do something halfway. He went all in when he was, going after something. And he was usually pretty successful. I don't want to get into that because it's a different rabbit hole. But regardless, I do feel like a connection to Ninurta. I don't know that I'd call him my personal deity in the sense that the Sumerians had like their matron or patron deity. I usually are like, if I have one, it's Nana, who is the moon god, and also Enlil, who is the father of the moon god in Mesopotamia. But it doesn't really matter so much. But what is interesting, though, is that Sagittarius or Ninurta was associated with Saturn, not Jupiter. So Jupiter was Enlil, who is, where is he? He's not, well, technically he's not really in the zodiac. Enlil isn't. He's got other places, like he can be associated with Shupa, which is, where is he over here? Hold on, let me find him. He's basically, they don't have him depicted over here, I don't think. Oh yeah, they got him over here. Like up here, we can see this is Enlil. So all of the major gods have a bunch of different connections to all these constellations. It's not just the ones in the zodiac. So It's this interwoven tapestry of mythology, and it's all connected, which is really cool. It's definitely different. I know, Nikki, you got a big list over there of like some of the
my
modern
gosh.
associations,
Yeah.
but definitely different than the whole like cut and dry. Nope, it's a black and white. It's either, earth, air, fire, water, masculine, feminine, positive, negative. Like, it's just not like that in the older periods.
Yeah, Saturn being associated with Sagittarius changes things. Like it really does. And in Sumerian astrology, Jupiter didn't really have I mean, he had what? Regulus, right? That was what they associated Jupiter with, was Regulus.
And Babylon,
yeah. Closer to yeah.
But you also got to consider, so Jupiter, as in Leo, and Leo was, he's the head of the pantheon. He's the master of the universe between the supreme creator God and the actual earth. So he can just be in Jupiter in a sense as he's moving through. He's still governing everything. So he doesn't need necessarily to be limited to a zodiacal constellation. Like, he just doesn't.
Yeah.
And they didn't get hung up about that.
Yeah, I think that's really cool because I do. I do. I think a lot of astrologers do. We get hung up on rulerships and we get hung up on those things because, we find those connections, and that's how we pull information out. But we've experimented with using other planets as rulers of these constellations, and you do get pretty accurate and incredible information. I find it really cool, like Sagittarius being associated with Saturn, only because I know a lot of Sagittariuses that have like incredible dark senses of humor that just make me laugh. They're just like the best company. So, and I can't help but think that that's like Saturn related. Is Saturn? Who is Saturn's consort? Was that associated with Virgo?
No. So, Ninurta, we have Pabelsang and Ninurta. We basically are looking at Tashmetu or Bao, in who are one of those is going to be Capricorn. There's a dog. Where is the dog? Is it over here? Hold on, like tilting my head, or I can't see where everything's at. Bao is sometimes depicted as a dog. Okay, so there's one over here. This is most likely representing Bao. So, either way, if we're looking at a consort within the zodiac, the archetype we're going to find here is Tashmetu, and it's not a coincidence that they're next to each other in the sky.
Yeah. Oh, that's so awesome. Tashmetu. And that's not, what's great about Capricorn is that you nailed a lot of like the maternal qualities of it, because in modern astrology, we hear a lot about how it's cold. They don't care about you or your feelings, which is like so not even real at all. It's like they talk about Capricorn as if it's only business all the time. How much money are you making? What are you doing? Like, I want to control people. Like there's just this awful, like, well, I guess you can't associate those things with Capricorn, considering where the planets are and how a person's chart is laid out. I'm not saying you can't associate negative qualities with these things, but the basis of this, go ahead.
No, those traits can be Sagittarian. Those traits can be, there's other things in the chart that can make somebody that way. Agree with you, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know. I've never done a reading where I'm just like, oh, it looks here that it looks like you're a cold and you're a jerk. Like nobody ever.
Right. Exactly.
Like, I just don't understand some of the modern interpretations. A lot of it, I think, can be reaching. It's just stretching, to find some kind of meaning. And when you're not using the real sky, and when you're not using the actual alignments, and look at, what is that? The lion just looks like he's in a little funny spot there. What is that, child's pose?
It looks like a person with the head of a lion and a tail, but it's definitely
totally
a body.
Distracted me. I totally forgot what it was.
Conspicuous position. Yes, that's definitely, you're not imagining it.
All right. Is that Leo? That's not even Leo.
No, that's not Leo. Leo's pictured over here. Now, this depiction is in Stellarium, and it's actually of the Babylonian zodiac. So a lot of these, they had different depictions at different times. This is just one approximation. Some of the examples, it's not hard and fast. And again, that's what we're looking at. It's very, very fluid.
Yeah, I love the Venus association with Leo. I can totally see that. I've known a lot of people in my life that were very, very much Venus people, very much all Leos. Oh my gosh. I mean, I have somebody in particular I'm thinking of that I would love to talk about, but I just can't talk about this person because they were wild. They were just nuts. Like some of the things she said and did were just beyond your comprehension. Like
And their Venus was in Leo?
She
Just
she
strong
had a
Venus
lot.
energy?
She had a lot in Leo. I think it was like Sun,
Okay.
Mars, Mercury, or Sun, Mars, Jupiter, from what I remember. And I don't remember my charts very well. Sometimes I'll tell you guys things and I'll go look back at the chart and I'm like, oh God, what was I talking about?
It's hard to keep it all straight.
Hard to keep it all straight. But this person is a member of my family who was just absolutely the most dramatic, petulant, petty. She was, definitely loved romance and wanted a lot of attention, just needed a lot.
Or that Babylonian Inanna.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And she really helped change my perspective on Leo and associating it with Venus. I can see the Mars energy. I can see that fire and that sexual creative energy. But Venus, it's definitely living there. So I can see that. I can feel it. I can, associate it with my own, chart too, where I'm like, oh, I could see that.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And not to, excuse me, not to talk bad about modern astrology or anything that came after, but just how kind of emphasizing the differences. The planets act very differently depending on where they're at. And I realize that sort of the whole point in other astrological traditions, but it's not to the extent that they do in Mesopotamia. Venus is a completely different planet in Virgo than she is in Leo.
Oh, she's very well behaved in Virgo. Yes,
she's very different in Pisces than she's going to be in Sagittarius. So it's almost like having a completely different persona, depending on what's going on. And that kind of fits with her original mythology too, because she was all over the place. But part of that reason was because why she was worshipped as the supreme goddess for so long, so many thousands of years, possibly for, who knows, possibly pre-Ice Age, we don't know. Maybe not in that specific form. And she had so many counterparts, not really avatars, but something to that effect, where, she can be synonymous with these other local goddesses, and they kind of take on her traits. She takes on theirs. So she, being this divine feminine figure, she's getting all of these different traits. And honestly, she is the only planet the only female planet in the Mesopotamian system. Technically they don't have genders in the other. Well, do they in Vedic? I don't know, you guys. I know like next to nothing. But Venus is very much like all the feminine stuff. Now, as you get into the Babylonian period, it becomes very clear that the Babylonians are not as progressive as the Sumerians. And they start to, you can tell that they are very afraid of women. Very, very afraid. Just how they describe Tiamat, the mother goddess, and how she is, they associated her with the sea, which was terrifying to them, but also depicted her as a dragon. And so she's like this monstrous creature. And when they go to fight her, all of the gods, there's nothing they can do. They're describing like all of these men, no matter what thoughts, ideas, plans, and strategies they have, when it comes to women, we don't know. We have no idea what's happening right now.
And that's still true today.
Well, yes, there you go. So, but it's very clear in their mythology. And Venus gets a lot of that too. The later versions of Venus, Inanna, the Babylonian Ishtar, she's much more sexual, much more aggressive, very petulant, and which is fine, because again, they only have the one female planet to work with. So it's got to get all the female traits, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. I think it's really cool. That the sun he didn't play as big of a part as modern astrology, gives the sun now. Like the sun was there, it was a helper, happy to give advice, and it was Venus's brother is the sun, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Her twin brother. Yes.
Yeah, and it acted more as like a guide versus like a luminary that rules Leo, for example.
Yeah, the Leo association is minor. I mean, we can see with the rays of the sun and the mane of the lion, but originally, again, Urmach was the name of Leo, which is a name for lioness. It was very clearly a feminine constellation. So we're not necessarily going to have any rays of the sun and the lion's mane and whatnot. We can also see with Nergal, there were times when he was depicted with a lion's mane, lion's claws, and he has lion association. So technically a Mars correlation in later periods to Leo is not outside of the question, but there's no doubt that the lioness of heaven was Inanna. They call her the lioness of heaven. You don't get what other this is what we're looking at. So, but for the sun, so the sun, moon, and Venus were the original Holy Trinity. They were worshipped as, like a triplicity, essentially. And it's not really strange because they are the three brightest luminaries, if we're going to call Venus a luminary. But they were the moon was seen as the father, and the sun and Venus were seen as the twins, which is very interesting because, obviously the sun is much brighter than the moon, how he got that eventually. But the sun would go on, his name was Utu, and he would go on these adventures, essentially, with Venus. She wanted to go into the underworld so she could eat from the tree in the special garden of knowledge, in the underworld or the spirit world. And when she ate from the tree of knowledge, she got all of the knowledge and wisdom of sex and the female arts and whatnot.
That's good. That story sounds so familiar.
Doesn't it?
Only in the later story, it's really, really bad to have any knowledge whatsoever at all.
Well, yes, apparently
you get punished for it.
Yes, a completely different mythos, completely different culture. So they weren't afraid. The Sumerians were not afraid of women. Clearly, they had no problems with that. Yeah. So Demuzid, the shepherd, comes to her, and his brother, the farmer. And if you guys are familiar with the story of Cain and Abel, they were also a shepherd and a farmer. So I'll leave it at that. You can use your imagination where I'm going with this. But Demuzid comes to Inanna and says that he wants to marry her. He asks her mother and all of these things. And she's like, no, I don't want to marry him. I want the farmer. He's got like all the good grain. And that's basically currency at the time. And her brother, the son, Utu, tells her, no, like, Inanna, you got to marry this guy. He is great. He's going to make you clothes out of wool. You're going to have like the most beautiful black wool shawls and like all of these things. He's going to bring you like delicious milk. You're going to have cheeses and kefir. And he didn't say kefir, but I'm,
imagining it. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. He's going to it's going to be great. He's really handsome. Look how he cares for the animals. Look how he tends to his family. Like, this is definitely the guy for you. And it took her a little while. She's finally convinced. She lets him come into the house, and he's there. They're talking and stuff, and she starts feeling it. Okay, she's getting the warm, fuzzy feelings, and they go into a very graphic, erotic poem, which you guys could definitely read. It's out there if you're ever interested. There's a lot of innuendo. There's a lot of plowing, but there's a lot of non-innuendo too. They're very specific. But yes, and she says of Demuzid, who, by the way, you guys, is featured in Aries. He is the hired man, which, excuse me, let me see if I can find it real quick while I cough. Okay, so he's over here. Technically, I don't know why he's down here like this. He doesn't look like the guy we're describing, but this is the image that we have for him. But he is all of that Aries energy in Mesopotamia is this guy. Now she says of him that he is this very passionate lover. They're doing it like 40 times a day or whatever it may be. I mean, they're gods, so they can do whatever. And then once again, Utu, before this is even happening, he's bringing Inanna presents. He's bringing her wheat. He's cleaning it for her. He's braiding it for her, or the barley. You know, he's basically just like taking care of his little sister, even though she's technically his twin, and doing everything for her. He's very, very devoted. And if you read the other myths, like in the Epic of Gilgamesh, for example, he gives Gilgamesh the 7 Sabiti, or the Pleiades, to guide him on his journey eastward. And he's also Gilgamesh's mother is praying to Utu. She's sacrificing for him. Please protect my son. And so when you actually read the myths, and this is the thing, in the later periods, they got really hung up. The Babylonians, to their credit, were tracking a lot of things, and they would come up with this system like X plus Y equals Z. Okay. So the kidney star in the field means a good flood. Okay. Well, the kidney star could be 3 different planets. The field could be 3 different constellations. So you as an astrologer had to figure out the code. You had to figure out what was going on. But basically, prior to that, the omens, the list of all these things were much less, if non-existent, depending on how far back you want to go. But we still have to speculate because, again, a lot of the omens are based on what are clearly old Sumerian myths and everything. But the sun would have been whatever he was in the myth. Now, later on, they talked about him being a god of justice. Like, they really harped on that. And they talked about, like, they would feature him with a scimitar and he'd cut off the hands of criminals. And really what that was about was they just figured, well, the sun can see everything, so he must know what's in the hearts of men. But if you read his myths, he's just love and brilliance and devotion, just like he is in like the actual sun. So that's really how they saw him. Niki, help me out. What in modern or like classical or whatever astrology, like how do they usually see the sun? I'm so
well, in Greek myth, it was Apollo, and Apollo was good at music. He was good at like basically everything, psychic, could see everything, very gentle, very kind.
So that sounds a lot closer then.
It was closer.
Version,
They he had the association with Mercury. Like we had the stories about Mercury and Apollo, and Mercury kind of stealing from Apollo, and being a trickster. So those types of things. The Sumerians talked about Enki, but Enki wasn't originally associated with Mercury. Ninurta was.
Well, this one's kind of
where it gets a little
debate. He probably was Mercury probably was Ninurta early on, but there wouldn't have been an issue with also having him have some sort of Enki association. It wouldn't have been a problem for them to have a dual nature.
I noticed that they were really fluid. They were really more, and I don't want to say intuitive, but I mean, they're watching the skies every single day. I mean, they didn't have internet, they didn't have TV, they had their lives and the sky and their farming and their living, and that's what they were immersed in. So it's
not just that, but you figure in an arid environment like that, they had a gorgeous view of the night sky every single night. They had nothing to do but look up at the sky at night, like just hang out and look up at the stars. That's what, I don't know. I grew up in a rural area, and that's what we did. We just go lay outside and, or sit by the fire and look at the stars, talk, tell stories, whatever. So they had a much deeper connection to everything.
Yeah, we talked about the which one was it? I think it was the meteor shower in like the early 90s. We talked about it a little bit on our other show, and that was what really did it for me. I mean, guys, I became obsessed with like Star Trek after that. It's watching all the alien movies.
That was amazing. I'm glad you remember that too, because I remember me and all my cousins, okay, Catholic family, so there's like 100 of us. We laid out till like, well, we actually slept outside that night, but we were just laying out under the sky. We had a perfect clear sky, and they were just coming like nonstop all night long. It was one of the coolest things ever.
Yeah, I remember that. That was like it was the coolest thing ever. And last night, I had gotten a bunch of photos from the Northern Lights, and they traveled really, really
Did you see it?
south. No, I was trying to sleep. I was
Oh,
trying to
okay.
sleep, but
Have you ever seen it?
no, actually, I've never seen them, even when they're right in
Okay.
front of me. I'm one of those eyes wide open blind people, though. So you're
It's
like, oh, you
weird.
don't
It's
see
it's
that
really
light?
it's
And I'm
really
like,
eerie.
is that from the city though? Like, I never got far enough out where I could actually.
Yeah, it doesn't look real at all. It doesn't look natural. It doesn't look real. It's crazy.
Yeah, it used to be super north though. You never used to be able to see them. That would used to be something that would be more like, I don't know, upper Michigan, way northern Wisconsin, or like Canadian. And now there's people seeing them way down as far as like, I don't know, the middle of the country, middle of the United States. So
Well, the solar storms are,
yeah,
you know,
solar
we have
storms
that.
have
We have
ramped up.
different. Yep.
Yeah, Utu is
Yeah.
waving his arms all over the place.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
Oh my gosh. I had another question for you, but all of a sudden I lost it. I lost
It
it.
happens.
I know. I love the Enki Mercury association though. I really do. I can see that.
Oh, it's very clear. And if you look
It's
at
very
his
clear.
omens, they all relate. Mercury's omens all relate to water, which is, I realize, in complete opposition to the air association that it gets in the classical period. But yeah, if he's in the, like I said before, if he's, the kidney star was sometimes Mercury, sometimes it's Saturn. It just depends, because they spoke in code. But everything he's doing is relate to water. And Mercury, Enki was the freshwater god. So this was all in relation to him. And all of his other associations, Mercury's associations, like with the Dod, who's a storm god, and what's his name? Nabu, a god of knowledge and wisdom in Babylon. Like, Enki was the god of knowledge and wisdom. Like, you don't have to, sure, we may not have a document that says, hey, everyone,
Yeah.
Mercury is Enki. Like, that is him, period, stop, go on with life now. We don't need to have it. Like, you can see all of the connections in here. And again, that was one of the cool things about Mesopotamian astrology, was the fact that they encoded the information, and it was incumbent upon people, astrologers, to dig in and immerse themselves in this knowledge, and then be able to make predictions based on everything that they're seeing. So I tell everyone, and I say this in the recorded version of my course too, one of the first things I tell people, like, you are basically, as an astrologer, as an ancient astrologer, like, this is your thing now. This is, you have a spiritual calling to essentially act in the position of a shaman or shamaness. Like, you are that bridge, that spiritual bridge between the sky and these deeper archetypes and meanings in the rest of the world. Like, that's your station. And it's not like one person. There's no one authority on these things. There was never one authority on these things. It was all, they had constant debates about what these different placements were going to mean.
Oh yeah, absolutely. A lot of it was cultural, or and tribal. Some families had associations with planets. I mean, I remember digging into like my old family crests and things of that nature, and like they were really big moon people. They had to have the moon on everything. So each to their own. I mean, like you had said before, of course there's going to be disagreements. I don't want to say like, my God's better than your God, or my God can beat your God. But I mean, right? it might have gotten a little bit like that, and we know that.
Well, it did in Babylon,
history,
because
that it does get like,
yes, because
yeah.
Marduk, who became the head of, he was a minor Sumerian god, probably a storm god, maybe fertility and stuff, kind of in the background, making it rain, which was a very sexual connotation, rain and water. That's the fertile seed or semen coming down to the earth to fertilize it. So that was like a very sexual thing for them. But over time in the Babylonians, as they came into power in the region after the Sumerians had essentially just died out as a culture, they just put Marduk on this pedestal, and they made him the god of everything. And it was not up for debate. There was no debating that one. They created a whole myth, a new creation myth outside of the ones the Sumerians had. They still, use some of the Sumerian gods and stuff in their stories, but they created a new one where Marduk is the champion who comes in and saves the day when the scary woman Tiamat, goes on a rampage, basically.
I've had people ask me. I recently actually had a guy who had caught the our webinar, and was absolutely so happy with it. And he goes, "It makes me wonder, like, what did women do? What happened in history that made men so scared, like so afraid that all of a sudden, like, you're done, you're done?" And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I wish I could tell you. Well, I haven't been able to pinpoint it in history, but we know that in the Sumerian culture, women were just not the same, but I mean, just about the same as men. They were able to work and make money. It wasn't like you have to marry in order to survive.
Right. They could marry, divorce, own land. They could become priests and have hold high office. As a matter of fact, a lot of the earliest city-states were actually they didn't have a king yet. They had a temple, and in a lot of those cases, they would have had priestesses running the temple, depending on what was going on. So, yeah, it was a completely different situation. We can probably draw the conclusion because, again, the Akkadians and the Babylonians were basically the same Semitic people. Same language and a lot of the same culture, same gods and everything. In the Akkadian period, as I said, we were still seeing very much the king getting his power from Inanna, the divine feminine. But as time went on and we get into the Babylonian period, that ritual, the rite of, this festival where the king is getting the symbolic power, it's there, they're doing it. But does it really have the same meaning? They're kind of going through the motions now. There is, now I'm sure somebody has a ton of information on this. Like many books have been written, or at least a handful of good books have been written on it. But as Marduk starts to take over as the one supreme god, the head of the pantheon, he starts to take on all of Inanna's traits, all of her divine femininity. He gets that too. And we see that same thing happen with Yahweh or El in for the Israelites. Their God all of a sudden takes on all of, just like Marduk, and there's a reason, and we talk about this ad nauseum on the other show. But he starts to become the mother and the father, the daughter, the brother. He gets it all, to the point where the Israelites actually write out their Yahweh's consort from their history. They're just like, nope, sweep it under the rug. We're just not doing that now. But he also had, he had a lady, so Asherah was her name. So you guys go look that one up. Very interesting.
I was like, who?
Her name's Asherah. And she's actually very similar to Venus, Inanna Ishtar, or Marduk's companion, his consort, who was Zarpanatu or Sharapanatu, however you want to pronounce it, who is featured in Virgo. Now, when you get down to it with her, she's really, this is kind of not the best depiction.
Oh God, what is that, a log?
Yeah. It looks like a log. It's supposed to be a patch of dirt with like a furrow, like a seed furrow, like in a field, and you can see the seeds over here.
Yeah.
And they're growing up now. But yeah, it does.
You pointed it out. Yeah.
Yeah, so she is basically a combination of Venus and also Ninhursag, the Sumerian mother goddess, who is the earth. One of her names was Ninhursag, but she's also called Ki. Ki means earth, land, soil, like, you know, it's pretty straightforward. But she's a birth goddess, and as Marduk's consort, she still gets a lot of his traits. Like, she still gets to be like the boss and the queen and the whatnot. But yeah, so at some point culturally, as we know, the Judaism, you know, becomes more prominent. It survives until present day. The Babylonian culture did not, you know, after they were conquered by the Persians, and the Persians were conquered by the Greeks, and, you know, so on and so forth. So the culture definitely shifted. Now, I can't speak for anywhere else in the world because I just don't have the knowledge base. But when it goes back to the Sumerian period, yes, we're looking at a completely different we look at women completely differently.
Yeah, we look at everything completely differently, actually. And I get it. It's kind of like it's kind of been like a game of telephone over the centuries, over the hundreds and hundreds of that. I mean, there's thousands of years that are between us and this era. So it sounds like it's been a game of telephone, and we've just been projecting and building and finding new meaning in a lot of these planets. I think Mercury is definitely super interesting. And it probably just doesn't, I don't know. I feel like in modern astrology, we talk a little bit about Mercury when it goes into retrograde, you know, and when it becomes combust the sun and conjunct other planets. But the depth of Mercury, like I love the water association, because I mean, when you associate it with just air, it's so dry. Like here, it's just communication. It's just thinking, as if there's no emotion attached to it, as if there's nothing else there. A lot of intuitive people, a lot of people who use their minds and they can see things and you know, predict things. I mean, I think that's incredibly telling to the strength of Mercury and the power it has over even just, you know, the masses of people. Like we have the moon that influences the people, but we also have a Mercury that's a giant influence as well. I was just saying though, I really love the emotion association with it. Like Enki, he wasn't in his stories, he wasn't like a trickster.
No, I don't understand
I think he always had like the future in mind. Like he was he liked to experiment. He liked to, you know, try things out, you know, and screw around, find out.
Yeah, literally. He definitely did.
So I like that there's like a little troublemaking, you know, aspect.
He's a complex figure,
yes,
for sure, but mostly benevolent. A lot of his trickster traits actually come from deceiving the other gods when they were causing havoc. So he helps humanity. Well, in at least two separate myths, he creates human beings. But also in various flood myths in Mesopotamia in different versions, he is the one who is saving humanity when the gods decide that humans are too noisy. It wasn't like in the Bible where, oh, they were wicked. The Mesopotamian one, no, they're just making too much noise. We're tired of it. Let's just wipe them out, which is silly, of course. And you know, like,
but it makes sense, I guess, you know, for them. It's like,
well, they just need a plot. We got to tell the story, right? It's like one of those movies you watch. You're like, why would nobody would ever do that? Really? Yeah, but we only got 2 hours. We got to get this. We got to.
Yeah. I love it. I love myth. I wish we could get more out of like the tablets that are sitting in the basement in the British Museum. I wish we could get more out of this, because I feel like people have been telling stories and myth stories since the beginning of time. That's how we passed our knowledge down. You know, written communication, it was written on scrolls, it was written on tablets, it was written on all these things, but the storytelling is what really carried a lot of that through history. So that you can see how we can compare it to like a game of telephone. Some people would, you know, some cultures are going to infuse it with their, you know, infuse it with what's going on with them and their culture and their society and their leadership and their kingship and their land and how it's being, farmed. I guess, they lived so simply, and to be able to just plainly see how these things were working for them, it's actually kind of inspiring to me. I like it. I like it a lot better than some of the other associations that have come a lot later, actually. So like when we get into outer planets and things like that, it gets a little wonky.
Yeah, a little bit.
But I think it's just because we're looking at it from a non-aligned, non-sidereal, perspective. So can get the real story. Now, in Sumerian astrology, they were back and forth with Libra being scales and the claws. Did that start with them or Babylon when the Babylonians took over? Were they kind of like, oh no, it's scales, now it's claws, now it's scales, now it's claws?
I don't have a good answer for you. It seems to fluctuate at different times, probably different areas. By the time we have like the canonical version of the Mulapin, which is the one that you're going to find most available online, we do already have them referred to as scales. But we know from different reliefs and different inscriptions that they're being referred to as scorpion claws. We have scorpion claws being emblems of the merchants. And again, it's one of those things where you just got to look a little bit past the surface to see what was going on. Like this stuff's really not that complicated. Some people want it to be as complicated as possible. But again, a lot of people, and I'm referring to a lot of Assyriologists and Sumerologists, they've grown up in a very rigid system in the West in general, where everything has to be very clearly defined, very straightforward, or else, we don't see it. Oh, it's not in black and white. I just don't see it. And again, that's not really in the spirit of even Babylonian astrology, which everything was coded. That was the plan. That was the whole point. It was all encoded. But again, a lot of these people aren't practicing astrology. They might be interested in the development of astrology, but they don't actually practice. They have no desire to. They'd probably be laughed right out of their field if they did.
Absolutely.
So
I find myself on astronomy websites where folks are asking how to calculate their ascendant using astronomy software. These are old forums, and they're getting chased right off. Oh, we don't talk about that here. That's just nonsense. And
right.
It's like, oh my God, you know that you guys were married at one time,
They don't. They don't.
They don't. But what's really, really cool is when we look at this, and I have to say this, not a lot of the constellations have changed since the very, very beginning, since what we know about astrology. Maybe Cancer was a turtle, maybe it was called the deceptive digger. We have a whole bunch of, we have some mythology based on that. Of course, the Virgo turned into, what looked like a log, as two women. It started out as two women, and then it was now just one laying there holding wheat and barley. What else changed? I think some of these are Pisces changed. They changed the
Western fish from a bird to a fish. Yes.
Yeah, which okay, I get it. But I don't know.
It's fine. It could go either way.
It could go either way.
Well, the bird and the fish had a lot of similarities because the birds all hung out by the water. That's where all the food was.
Yeah.
So wherever there was water, there's fish. So, and birds. So it was natural for them. And again, we're seeing it's fluid. They're not getting really worked up. And you can even see some of the borders of these constellations. Now, this is from the Seleucid period. So this is much later after the Babylonian period. Shortly before like the last cuneiform texts in Sumerian are dying out. They're not in use anymore. But even this Capricorn is much closer. And by the way, these people who created these, they're using historical texts to try to pinpoint where these things were. So this was not just like this random image that they threw up here. They're actually trying their very best to go on old documents. But as you can see over here, this version of Enki or Aquarius is right on top of this bird. So this is another reason why I personally, and I know there are Babylonian astrologers who are very precise. Now, by Babylon, or by the Babylonian period, the later Babylonian period in particular, a lot of them are, it's very close to Hellenistic astrology. They have very precise degrees that they're using, and that's fine. I'm a savage. I do ancient astrology, guys, where we're, it's all very fluid. If you would have come to me with your chickens in the mountains, I would have, looked at the stars, took the chickens, and told you your future. Like, that's what I'm doing over here. So,
I love it.
But these locations of some of these have changed. So I just don't get super worked up over the locations of some of these boundaries. And a lot of people have the sense of, well, these are the, the official boundaries now. Let's see where they are. Let me see. You're going to give them to me. No, he's not giving them to me in this one. So I can't even see it won't even show the boundaries.
I was on Stellarium this morning and I was looking up my ascendant because I had a really awesome reading with Gary of Timeline Astrology. He's a Vedic astrologer. And I was interested in getting a Vedic reading because I'd never had one before. And he puts my ascendant right in between Leo and Cancer. And I was like, how? Wait, well, and then I pulled it up and I'm like, oh, okay, that actually might be like spot on. So I've been using Stellarium just to kind of look to see how well does my software match what I'm seeing with Stellarium. And I can't cross-check Stellarium. I can't be like, right. Stellarium good? Like, are you good, Stellarium? Yeah, do you know what you're talking about?
As far as I know, it's the
pretty accurate. It's
constantly being updated. I mean, you can maybe tweak some of your algorithm. So like when you start to go back 10,000 years, it does start to get kind of wonky, or even forward 10, 12,000 years. You'll start to come up with some issues, but like within a 5,000 year period on either side, like it's pretty accurate.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I'll have to. I know you sent me that message, Niki. Don't let me forget. No, I will bring it up. But
I asked Chad about it.
So here's my thing, and this is just my personal take on it. If you're, let me see here. Let me pull something up. Where's the Eastern point? Okay, so let me pause. No, I don't need to pause it. Do I need to pause it? Okay, let me. If you have who's this down here? We have I'm trying my hardest not to cough, you guys. You'll have to forgive me. Let me just speed it up real quick. Do I want to do it that way? No. Let me back up. Hold on, you guys. Multitasking. I've been up for a lot of hours. So we have, this looks like the Pleiades, okay, right above the horizon. Right above the horizon, okay? Now, I have my stellarium set up topographically, so it's going to reflect more what we'd have literally been able to see as opposed to accounting for the curvature of the Earth, okay? So, like, I'm just looking at mathematically, your ascendant's going to be below this. It's going to be down here. Whereas, I'm basing it just the same way I would if I was standing outside and I'd be like, okay, it looks like I can see this. All right. So that's now your ascendant are the Pleiades, which was a constellation in Babylon. Oh, here are the Pleiades. Sorry about that. But at the same time, the constellations that are dominating the sky at that time, in this case, this is where Tiamat is at, or Cetus or Cetus in the current zodiac. This is going to be and Mishada up here, which I won't go into. He's basically possibly a pre-Sumerian sun god, you guys, who was kind of relegated. Like they talk about him being the grandfather of the creator god. So this is like a callback to way back when. I don't usually go into him too much in my readings just because he's kind of outside of the ecliptic in a lot of cases, but
yeah,
in this version, he's just right up here, which is cool. But anyways, this is Aries. This is Cetus. I'm probably going to say like, hey, yeah, you have technically the Pleiades or Taurus as your ascendant, but in Mesopotamia, we're looking at the sky. Okay. So beneath the horizon, that's still the underworld. So if we're going by what we're visually seeing. Now, again, if you're born during the daytime, we're not going to be able to really see the stars. But we also back then wouldn't have been hung up on like, oh, I need your exact time of birth, right? Like they didn't know. They had completely different time tracking systems. So that's beside the point anyways.
Yeah.
But what we do know is that everything above the horizon, you're in the land of the living, okay? Everything in the first part of the sky right over here, which is your traditional 12th house, this is the beginning. Everything moves during the night. It's moving over here, as you can see. Move. Yeah, so it's moving. So this is telling us the story. This is the gods telling us the story. We're watching their daily or nightly journey back into the underworld. Now, the underworld is a bad translation, you guys. It's really the netherworld, the spirit world. It's this alternate realm or dimension. Possibly we could look at it like another, like they didn't believe the earth was flat, but I mean, that would be a better description of what like the underworld, like the Greek version. That's not what we're looking at here. So anyways, we would know that at the high point of the sky, this is where the gods were the most powerful. They had dominion over all that they could see. And we can take that in relation to our own lives and be like, okay, this is the height of the power, right? This is what everybody's going to see. And we're taking these meanings. We're decoding it because that's what the ancient astrologers had to do. Over on the western side, where everybody's going back in here, we would see, okay, this is the field. We know through reasons that I won't bore you with here, that this relates to the Absu, the realm of water that Enki governed, where he lived, even though, yes, it's in the sky, and that's the thing. The earth was in the sky and was in the underworld, and it was like all mirrored in with each other. We would know that this is where everything's at just before the gods go back into the underworld. Now, they did use metaphors. And so we could look at this like, yes, okay, this is death. And we know from the stories of when Inanna, Venus, goes into Kur, which is the name for the great place or the nether region. And also it looks, the cuneiform sign looks like little mountains. And it's the word means mountains. So she's just going beneath the mountainous horizon, okay? They tell this whole story about how she has to cast off all of her jewelry. She's got to get rid of her divine powers. She goes through all these doors, and each one she's got to get rid of more stuff until eventually she's just this lifeless husk. She's not even a goddess anymore. They just kind of hang her up on a hook, and they're like, all right, that's it. That's Inanna. And it requires Enki to come, who eventually gets some water to sprinkle on her and brings her back to life after 3 days, you guys. She's resurrected after 3 days, okay?
That sounds so familiar.
I know it does, doesn't it? Oh. So we know, like, yes, this is where we're casting off all of our stuff. Well, what's all that stuff doing? You know, what are you doing? What is your stuff? These are your belongings. These are your people. These are the people that are mourning your passing. This is your tribe, your community. So again, we can take this information based on this lifestyle or this life journey, and we can apply it to astrology. We can glean meaning therefrom. Now, the same thing in the underworld here, we would do the same thing. Well, where is the beginning of your underworld journey? We can look at that like your spiritual journey. Well, it's down here now in Enki. What does that mean? Well, maybe your spiritual journey kicks off with a lot of artistic work, creativity. You know, we look at Enki as that figure. Down here in the height of the underworld, which was daytime for them, you know, because the sun and the moon went into the nether region and lit it up, just like they saw all the stars. They saw all the constellations. They had the same sky that we do. It's just at, you know, opposite time of day. So this is like, you know, the height of the spiritual power and whatnot. And then again, at the just before the and I know I moved it because it used to be in Taurus, so we'll just use your imagination. But basically, everything wraps up just beneath the horizon, right before the gods are reborn. And many of these gods were reborn every year, sometimes at weird intervals, depending. Demuzid, Venus's husband that we talked about earlier, who was, you know, had the good wool and the good intimate skills.
Yeah.
He had to go into the underworld every year. He was sacrificed, and his death around summertime represented the death of the vegetation. And he would be reborn in the wintertime. And that was their season of rebirth, was in the winter. So I know, like, that's completely backwards in a lot of European cultures. You know, they're used to like, oh, summertime's the time of life and joy and whatever. Completely opposite in Mesopotamia, which is why I personally, you guys, don't get behind the seasonal associations for the constellations, because that's a very narrow worldview. Like, there's two different hemispheres. There's different regions of the world. Like, you can't make everybody's astrology based on your part of the world and its seasons, you know?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And we know that the seasons change. So you're going to have like summertime in December. There's going to, like, we won't be alive for it, but there's gonna
Eventually,
be,
yeah, that's exactly what will
yeah,
happen.
yeah. That's why we don't use seasonal associations at all, because of science and precession and the changes that the earth makes. And I feel like the ancients
I'll
knew
be right
this.
back. Hey, take over. I'll be right back.
Oh, okay, perfect. Yeah, I really feel like astrology wasn't meant to be so complicated. I really feel like when the ancients and people have passed this knowledge down, it wasn't meant to be so mathematical. And I'm glad that we associate math and have all these amazing calculations. We were able to discover a lot more, a lot more other things. Like we discovered Pluto and Neptune and Uranus, due to math. But anyway, I really feel like it wasn't supposed to be as complicated. I like Abby's approach, where it's like more pointy, talky. And I think we can get a lot out of a natal chart, and we can get a lot out of a transit by just looking at where the planet is and the constellation it's sitting in, and having a good understanding of what the constellation actually means. And when we get a lot of students who ask those things, like, well, what did it originally mean? And we talk about, well, originally this was the life of the people. They farmed, they had, relationships, and they took care of their families, and they had big families, and they passed all this knowledge down, and that's basically how it went. It wasn't like, oh, you have this very rigid system that you need to work with. This planet will be, having a good time here in this constellation, but right across it won't. It won't. It's just, it hates being there. So, I mean, you know what I mean? So I personally, I'm just reflecting. I really don't think astrology was meant to be so darn complicated. Like, let's cross-reference this and have these rulership associations and those types of things. It really complicates astrology. Not that it doesn't work, because, I've had Hellenistic readings. I've had, just had a Vedic reading. It was incredible, and I could definitely resonate. So I'm not saying that those things don't apply. I mean, absolutely. Humanity has developed astrology to be a working mechanical system. But what's missing is, I think, a lot of intuition, a lot of, a lot more heart, I think. When we separated the spirituality from the science part, it got a little, just kind of blew up a little bit. And nobody knew what to do with that for a really, really, really long time. And they still are shocked when people still are shocked when I'm like, yeah, I use the real sky when I do astrology. They're like, wait a minute. They aren't doing that. And when you talk to somebody who doesn't use the real sky and they're an astrologer, they can sometimes get real feisty with you. Like, well, who told you that you can do that? Who taught you how to do that? And to me, it's just kind of normal. Wouldn't it be normal to do, astrology when you're talking about the stars and the planets and the constellations, to use them exactly where they are, not based on mathematical calculations, but just where they really are? The fact that it's kind of turning into a debate, it really isn't debatable, actually.
Not now that we know that it's a symbolic construct.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yes. Now that we got the answers.
Yes. So you guys, if you don't know, and I won't talk too much about it, but we did do, there is a very popular astrology podcaster, we will say, We did go in, we watched the whole thing and we went through it piece by piece. We picked it apart and debunked that argument, which was interesting because I didn't know what the argument was. I've heard through via my YouTube channel and lots of angry comments, we will say, that all these different reasonings for why people use tropical astrology. And I'd never really heard them all put so succinctly as in this person's video, which you can find elsewhere on this channel. Now, we will be re-uploading this video up to the ISAA's channel. We're going to start releasing videos on that that channel too. We just can't live stream there yet. So we got to live stream here first until we get like 1,000 viewing hours, and then we can do it over there. But in the meantime, you guys can check that out. It will remain on this channel, but
yes,
we'll probably still have clips and be going on to the other channel too. We just we were feisty. We were definitely worked up. So,
but we are a bit of historical freaks, and we love to do our research. And when it doesn't match, it's kind of really hard to listen to rhetoric. It's this kind of banter after a while. It's just. So yeah, I encourage you to check it out.
Yeah, I think a lot of people aren't used to getting any type of pushback.
Yeah, I think that's true. But I have no regrets. So
me neither. It was great. It was cracking me up. I
had a great time. So I hope you guys all check it out. Definitely. We're gonna do it again. We're gonna do it again. So,
yeah, definitely.
Not the same video, but
sure. Sure. Oh, that's my hot water. I'll be right back.
All right. Well, I really want to say thank you to Abbey. She's not here at the moment, but I really want to say thank you to her for all that she's done to put all of this together. Putting together the Sumerian workshop took some time. And it's just fun to be able to come on here and just talk about it with all of you, because I know a lot of folks are like, well, where did it start? Where did we begin? That's a really good question. And Abbey has a lot of answers to that. Now, all the answers, no, because we're missing a lot of pieces of history. Okay. We can't for sure say that, the ancients were doing natal astrology. I mean, we can assume they were definitely telling stories. They were definitely getting into, myth and creating things that they were passing along generation after generation, and to be able to find somebody that has put the time in to look at those things. I'm definitely grateful for all of the research that Abbey has done. So but personally, I don't know what I'd do if I didn't have this information. I'd probably still be spinning my back wheels, just wondering, well, what the heck's going on? Like, why doesn't this work, but this doesn't work? I'm big into testing the thing, test the thing, see how it makes you feel for a lunar cycle. You've got 4 weeks to test something out, sometimes longer than that. We've talked about retrograde planets and how they affect other people. Sometimes for me, it's crickets. Sometimes it's chaos. I mean, you can't for sure say that every retrograde is going to bring the noise.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was just letting the group know that you've done an amazing job. Like, you've done an incredible job researching and pulling all of this together, and I'm really excited. I'm so happy that you know so much. I know, and yet, well, what I love is that you're like, look, there's so much more to learn. There really is. Like, this isn't
always
it.
So much to learn.
Yeah, and I love that you leave yourself open for learning more, for accepting new information. And I think that's what astrology should really be about. Let's open it up to learn a little bit more how other people and other practitioners are interpreting these things, and these energies. And I love how intuitive it gets as well, where it's not just straight science, straight facts. Because I've had intuitive readings. We have a few people who read intuitively, and they are just incredible. They'll look at your chart and I'm like, wow, oh my God, how do you know that? This is cool. This is really cool. So yeah, I love that we can bridge that.
They're tuning into something, and that's the thing.
Yeah, that's the energy.
How do you think these people originally got this information? They did the same thing. Like, whoever the first astrologers were, they didn't have any list. They didn't have any writing, probably.
Yeah.
They had stories, and they had to kind of go based on what they were picking up.
Yeah, absolutely. There wasn't somebody there to give you the go ahead. Like, yes, this is the exact way that you have to practice. Like, it wasn't like that at all. And I think astrology needs that a little bit. It's gotten a little rigid here in the West anyway. And it's like, look, I get the rules, and I get and that's how some people practice, but I don't know, I like to learn the rules, and then I like to break them. And how can we stretch this out, and where can we go from here? Like, that's how I like to practice.
There is so much room for innovation. There's so much. You guys, I learn new things every single day. I also wake up, I roll out of bread I roll out of bed and I start doing research. Yeah. I've got like my head in ancient texts, like in the Sumerian language all the time. And there's information encoded in the language too. And sometimes like you read something 100 times, but then one day you read it, you're like, oh my God, like I never made that connection before. What's going on? So like for ancient astrology in particular, there are hundreds of thousands of untranslated cuneiform texts, and who knows what kind of information they have, for everybody else's brand of astrology. Well, technically, if you're practicing like tropical astrology, I don't know that there's any room for experimentation or intuition or deviation. I don't know. You guys will have, I don't know who the authority is on that, who we would even ask for that. But I would imagine just what I know about it, like there's just not a lot of room there. But I know for the ancient side of things, and I will say this too, even if you are interested in Vedic or maybe I shouldn't say that for Vedic. If you're interested in classical or anything based on classical, I would still take the Mesopotamian approach, which is to go into it wide open, be like, what are all of the options here? What could this possibly mean? Because again, there's not, and I say apply that to the classical side of things. Even if you're not using like the Mesopotamian system.
Yeah, it's so much fun to look at the fixed stars and talk about how the ancients viewed like, oh God, the star Sirius and all these other like Regulus and all these, Persian, royal stars that there's so, oh God, guys, there's so much astrology you're missing out on when you're just doing a rigid tropical system that doesn't even base itself on the real sky. You're missing out on so much really cool info, like really cool stuff.
I will say,
I don't even know if they use fixed stars. If they do, it's probably like 30 degrees in the wrong tropical.
Oh, I don't know.
The entire time I studied tropical, I never learned about the fixed stars. I never learned about the Pleiades. I never learned about any of that stuff. It was like, here's your 12 psychological profiles. And when the sun reaches this, that's what it's about. And it was literally, okay, like I can get this. And I understood it. And it was great to get that kind of information. But when you're trying to apply it in real life and you're trying to apply these things to real people, it just wasn't adding up. You get halfway truths, and it's just not. I don't know.
I would say so.
Experience. So
I was fortunate to not get too far into tropical astrology and classical astrology before I figured out that the zodiac was giving my clients bad information. I'm like, wait a second, right? It was embarrassing, you guys. I'm a perfectionist, and to have somebody look me in the eye and they're like, no, it's not really me. I'm like, oh, like I'm so uncomfortable just thinking about it.
Same. Yeah. Oh, I was doing the same thing. I'm like, well, wait a minute. Okay.
Yeah, it's not, it's
you.
Not a fun, it's not a fun feeling. So I learned about the sidereal zodiac very early on, and I was fortunate for that. But I still had an education in the classical meanings of the zodiac signs and everything. I've since blessedly forgotten. This is like what, like 25 years ago or something. So, I don't remember him as much now. But I would think, though, it might be helpful, like you were just saying, Niki, it might actually be helpful to start astrology learning it that way. Just because it does give you like I don't want to call it a foundation, but it's really like bullet point. It's bullet point astrology. It's these 12 things. It's these, 12 or however many planets. You just got to do the math. Like that. I think that probably is helpful for people when they're learning.
Yeah,
but
I think so too.
Yeah, to get stuck on it, that's just not my thing. And I know Nikki's like this too. We actually have a lot of similarities, I found out over the last couple of years. But I just don't believe people when they're like, well, this means this. Yeah, why does it mean that?
Yeah.
Well, just because we've been doing that's not good enough. I want to know why. I want to know where this came from. I want to know what happened in the beginning. Why did they think those things? So that's how I got into Mesopotamian astrology in the first place. And I'm so glad that he did. It changed my life, and it changed I don't know, it opened things up outside of astrology too, just like Mesopotamian deities and spirituality, and there's just like a lot of cool stuff, So
yeah, I agree. It opens you up to a completely different world. All of a sudden, you're not stuck in a cage. You're not stuck in a box. But you're right. It does leave a really good foundation for you to learn from and play on. So it serves its purposes in different ways, I think, and most of us now have been coming from a tropical background. So it makes sense to question everything, in my opinion. I'm always sus. I'm always okay. Like there's never somebody's nice to me. I'm like, why are you nice to me? Like that's how deep it goes. So until I've flushed you out, until I'm like, okay, and then you're all right. I'm gonna question things. I'm gonna definitely use my imagination. And then I think astrology is such a deep rabbit hole that I just enjoy falling down every single day. I mean, I'm researching outer planets right now, you guys, and I'm just like, wait a minute. Like, how did you guys just come up with these associations? It was all just like made up, which is
you really just made it up.
Yeah. Well, some of it applies, but some of it's just strictly made up. And we don't have a cosmological history on these outer planets like we do Saturn and Jupiter and Mars, like the visible planets that we've been able to see. So we've got, I don't know what, tens of thousands of years of documentation, maybe two. I don't know. Time, guys, I don't know. They screwed it all up. When you look at time and they're like, oh yeah, we went from this calendar to this calendar, and then we count backwards from when we decided time was going to start. Right. Okay, when I started studying astrology history, guys, I'm like, what? Wait a minute. I need a refresher on timelines and how they actually work. So
yes.
So it does get a little complicated as you dig back deep, but you should always be questioning the things that you're being taught, especially by other astrologers too. Like, how much bias is being put into this, and is this a presentation that's only focusing on their practice and where they want the future of astrology to go. A lot of our education has come from tropical astrologers who only want to continue that tradition, which we know is at least almost 27, almost 30 degrees off right now.
Is it? It was like 25-ish.
It's
too far.
It's enough to just be like, it needs to be done. But whatever. That's a whole nother.
I'm heavily biased, and I warn people too. Like, hey, I'm going to talk to you about this, but I want you to know, like, I'm super biased. So, like, if it sounds like I'm talking all this smack, like, just be aware that I have my reasons, and don't let that affect you. Like, just be aware of it.
That's awesome. That's perfect.
Xena Warrior Queen, which is like probably the best name, you guys
ever. Yeah.
You guys did a good job on analyzing that video on tropical. I'm curious though on your thoughts on Sumerian being first versus Egyptian pre-Hellenistic times. Okay, let me show you something because This right here.
That's a really good question. And
it is a great question.
I've had that question before too. So,
all right, this I've been scrolling through, or the sky that we have been seeing circling is the Babylonian version of the Mulapan and all the other constellations and stuff that are up in there, the fixed stars. This is based on the Egyptian Dendera zodiac. Okay, this is almost, as you will see, identical to the Babylonian zodiac. This is a great example. Now, the Dendera zodiac in real life, you guys, is amazing. If you can dig out a picture, it's gorgeous. Now, we are looking at that point. we already have like massive Greek influence and so I'm not saying that this is like dating closer to the Sumerian period. It's not. What I am saying, though, is this is Egyptian astrology. If we're looking at Egyptian astrology, it's the same Babylonian constellations, which go all the way back to, they're all based on the Sumerian gods. They're all they all have Sumerian names. The Sumerian culture, okay, so I don't buy the dating of the pyramids, the conservative dating whatsoever. I think it's ridiculous. The water erosion in the Sphinx enclosure, on top of everything else, on top of the fact that there are no hieroglyphs that describe like the building of the pyramids, probably because, the people who were writing in Egyptian at the time didn't know how they were built, right? Or they would have just done this. So I'm not saying, there's clearly multiple periods of history going on in Egypt, okay? But the current dating of ancient Egypt, the Sumerian culture is older than this. The Mesopotamian region goes all the way back to like 8,000 BC. So like right after the end of the last ice age, we start to see these cultures, kind of just sprouting up in that area. And they eventually transition into what is the Sumerian people and the Sumerian culture. So this is a really long way of saying that Egyptian astrology, whatever there is actually an amalgamation of Greek and Babylonian astrology. Now, the Egyptians did not have their own I know I make people mad every time I say this. The Egyptians had the decan system, okay? It was every 10 days, a new star would rise and they would measure time based on this 10-day period, which is fantastic. It had nothing to do with predicting the future. It had everything to do with like, okay, the star's rising. We should probably get the fields ready. Oh no, this star's rising. It's going to flood soon. The Nile's going to flood. It's starting the rainy season. It was all about trying to keep time. Now, the Vedic or the system, I know Vedic's like a misnomer. In Vedic astrology, the nakshatra system with why do I always want to say 28, 29 stars? Probably because I have number dyslexia, but like the 28 mansions, the lunar mansions, that did not have anything to do with astrology, you guys. Okay, it didn't. I'm sorry. Go read the scriptures. All right. If you don't believe me, don't take anything like at face value. Go and look this stuff up. Over time, that was done for ritual timekeeping. It was another calendrical system, essentially, where we could account for like the best time to perform certain rituals or do whatever. Over time, Babylonian knowledge spread across the region. We have trade routes, like people have been going back and forth in this part of the world for thousands and thousands of years. This information from Greek, which comes from Babylon, is being superimposed now into this nakshatra system. They start to get familiar with the constellations and the different planets and like kind of get some of those meanings. We know this because go and look up some of the meanings of the Vedic planets, what they do, you guys. They're very similar. Like you're not going to listen. We just can't pretend. Okay. Now they do have differences and that's fine. But the whole concept of astrology, planet plus constellation equals whatever, this is not a Vedic invention. It's not an Egyptian invention. They didn't have it. Now, they did develop their own system. I can't speak to any Egyptian system because, again, it's going to be primarily an amalgamation of Vedic and, Greek and Babylonian astrology, plus whatever mythology, like Egyptian mythology or spirituality or culture or whatever that they superimpose onto it. But again, it doesn't come from that. This is definitely like its own new separate thing. And that's exactly what happened in India. So, which is fine. I'm not, that's great. I'm glad that it stuck because like we talked about in that other video, and I think it was Ija Levy, I know I'm saying it wrong, mentioned like if Vedic astrology hadn't become popular, or Indian astrology rather, nobody would have been using the sidereal zodiac because they maintained it the entire time.
They did. They did. They weren't taking it from the British, and they weren't going to be taken over. I think it was the British. We talked a little bit about the history. They weren't going to be taken over, and their culture wasn't going to be subjugated to the type of changes that all of the other cultures around them had. Or was it Rome, or was it I can't remember.
No, what is essentially Arab astrology became so. Okay, so backing up. So we have like the Babylonians. They start to, so I'm sure you guys are familiar with like the Chaldeans. The Chaldeans are basically the inheritors of the Babylonian astrology system. And their information gets adopted by the Arab astrologers. So it starts to, meld. And then we have like, I can't really speak to its interaction with like Islam in particular. So because that's just not my area of expertise.
Yeah.
But like Arab astrology for sure starts to move over farther into the East. And so, this is all happening in the Near East. But the Indians had a lot of incursions by the Muslims over time. There's a lot of conflict that continues to go on. So while the Arab astrology is going on and is flourishing and is fantastic, a lot of medieval astrology comes directly from, Arab astrologers. They basically got the Indian astrologers it was like, do you guys ever see those images where they show like two different seas in the ocean, like the two different temperatures and the different substrate. Like you're looking at the ocean, but it looks like there's two different, one's really brown and dark, one's really blue. It's basically the same thing. There's this fluid line where it's going back and forth, but for whatever reason, and it was probably because the Indian astrologers had already absorbed it into a religious philosophy. Like it was now part of the spirituality. They used it to pinpoint, better timing for different dates. And, that was a really big part of it. It remains a really big part of it. Also, these apotropaic rituals, which are done to counter any negative effects that might be happening astrologically. This was a carryover from Babylon for sure. That was a major part of Babylonian astrology. Like, hey, Mars just came back up from underneath the horizon. This could be bad. We need to do this very specific ritual on this day to counteract any of these effects. And that remains a major part of Indian astrology. Not every Western Vedic astrologer does it, but a lot of the Indian astrologers do. So that was a really long explanation.
No, that was really interesting. That was really, really interesting. Well, I haven't explored all of that, like you explore a few little things like esoteric astrology. I've looked at the myth of, Egyptian astrology. I've got a really cool book on the origins of evil in Hindu mythology. I mean, there's definitely really cool stories out there and myths. And yeah, it can be overwhelming when you're looking at all the different cultures and all the different things that they've contributed. It's a worldwide effort, folks. Astrology's been a worldwide thing. It's been a worldwide effort for a really long time. And we do have to thank, Indian astrologers for maintaining that sidereal coordinates and calculations, because it would have been lost. And astrology has been lost over time. It's dipped and made its comebacks a bunch of different times throughout history. And we'll get to all of it eventually. Eventually we'll cover all those bases.
Yeah.
Probably not in this episode.
Try to. Right. Hey, Nature's Play says, but it all came from tribal and nomadic people and oral traditions. In Canada, we have evidence of First Nation people living on the West Coast in a microclimate during the last ice age. Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And that's why I use that image earlier on about basically an astrologer is like a shaman. That's probably where it originally comes from. Like, you know, this kid is sick. Let's go to the village shaman. Let's go ask the elders, because they basically sit around and, you know, look at the sky at night while we're off doing like work or feeding kids or doing whatever else the other people are doing. We already have the specialization of these tribal elders who are keeping this oral tradition alive. So that's what I'm saying. Who knows how far back this stuff goes? There's no way we'll ever know unless, you know, we discover Atlantis or, you know, something crazy like that. But who knows? Who knows?
North America is Turtle Island. That's a big myth with the tribe in my area. The Oneida tribe talks about the woman who fell out of the sky and lands on the giant turtle. And that's how the beginning of humanity starts. The beginning of the world starts. It's pretty cool myth. I don't recall all of it right this moment, but if you get into it, look it up. I mean, it's
mythology is awesome.
Yeah,
mythology is so cool. I
get
love
lost
it.
in it.
Everybody's mythology is amazing.
Even I make fun of Greek mythology, but that's what got me into mythology, because I was like, this is so weird. You can't predict where the story's going to go next. You just can't. And even the Greek dramas that aren't even like astrology related, I'm like the Oedipus stories. Oh my God.
That was the one that got me. I remember being in high school and being like, what is happening
right now? Yeah.
Is this a real story? You guys are making us read about this? And then, but you're right. Greek astrology, or mythology, as a Catholic, we weren't allowed to explore other religions and ideas. So like when I went back to public school, because I don't know if they do Greek mythology in Catholic school. I got kicked out before that ever happened. But I remember like, this is cool. Like, this is weird. Everybody's banging geese and and you're letting me as a child, like I'm not yet an adult, and you're letting me read about this. Like, I want to know more. Like, what other kind of crazy stuff was going on in this situation? So yeah, it got me interested in mythology for sure. But it's definitely weird.
Yeah,
Greek mythology is very incoherent.
It's like a fever dream. Like you had compared it to fever dreams, and you're right. It's kind of like that. But you get the gist of it. Like you do get the gist of it from the stories. Like when they talk about Jupiter being promiscuous, you know, and getting it on everywhere. I mean, there's that fertility association. There's that rain association.
Yep.
So I mean,
another thunder god. Yep.
Yeah, he's bringing the thunder in every awesome story.
He sure was.
I swear I thought Hera was the moon. I don't know where I got that from. I just, I'm still like stuck on that. I'm like, I swear, am I having like
maybe there was something. Maybe.
Well, yeah, I think she's associated with the constellation Cancer, and that's where I pulled it in. And, you know, I don't know. They're a little confusing sometimes. Greek mythology is weird.
A little bit.
But fun.
Oh, Kit says, so do you guys have a chart with your experience experiments to see how, for example, Venus and Virgo versus Saturn and Scorpio, etc.? That would be cool to read. I don't have any more. I was a spreadsheet person for many, many years. And then I realized I was addicted to data and I had to step away, and I don't know where all my stuff went. But when I was like testing everything out, because I didn't necessarily believe all this stuff either. The stuff that I'm telling you wasn't after like years of putting it into practice in like high stakes environment when, you know, money's on the line and reputation's on the line. There was like, oh, wait a second. Like I'm hitting it every single time. There's none of those like, yeah, I don't know why that doesn't resonate with you. So, but yeah, there's ways to do it. But again, if you, at least in the Mesopotamian system, if you know the stories, you know the characters, you can pretty much guess how they're going to be in the different constellations. If you know that Venus is the goddess and she can be a loving mother or just an evil, petulant woman.
Person. Yes.
Yes. A wonderful lady, depending on where she's at, then you can just figure out, like, okay, Sagittarius has warlike traits. Maybe Venus is going to be more assertive or aggressive there. Like, again, it's there for you to determine what's going to be going on. And on top of that, I will tell you, and this is more just from years of doing this, the chart will tell you a story. If you read it, and you go on a journey, if you look at things in isolation, it's a little bit harder. But if you start from the sky, like the eastern point, just like we would have in ancient times, and it will tell you a story, and you'll be able to see, okay, Venus in Scorpio can go in maybe a lot of different directions, but I already know that this person is already very sensitive. Maybe they're very empathic. Maybe they love nurturing people. We're probably going to get more softer traits in here. So, like, you can, that's when your intuition comes into play, when you start looking at things more holistically.
I think using your own chart and learning your own chart to begin with, and getting to know yourself and being honest with yourself about where your placements are and how they operate, it really just starts there. And a few years ago, that's how I started. I would check, like the moon moves pretty fast. So when the moon would be conjunct a planet of mine that I wanted to study, how is the aspects of this moon and this planet working? I would do it with all of them. I think it's just and how you decide to experiment is up to you. Maybe you experiment with your spouse because you know them better than anybody else, or one of your children. You can play with their charts and experiment with it too. You get a good idea of how the planets work in those constellations and the other aspects that are hitting those planets, and how those are influencing. Squares influence a lot different than trines and sextiles. We all know that. Same with like oppositions and conjunctions. So you can read it, and isolate it. But all of those other players and that whole other family comes into play. And you'll see how unique and how different each chart and each person and each individual is. It's I definitely encourage to experiment with it in your own way. I figured out different ways, and then I Googled different ways, like, how do you do this? How do you do that? Eventually I settled on just using the moon to figure it all out. The moon and faster moving planets, Mercury is pretty fast, Venus, those types of things. So it just keep a journal. It takes time. It's not like, I ran a spreadsheet and everything. This is the data. It's kind of case by case, and it takes time.
Yeah, and definitely like practice on people too.
Yeah,
like get somebody to practice on, because that makes a huge difference.
Well, you're not gonna get the same thing if somebody's Mercury is in Virgo versus somebody's Mercury that's in Virgo conjunct like Saturn. There's going to be different things happening for each one of those people, and where it sits in the house, and those types of things. So, I mean, it's complicated, maybe complicated to answer.
It can be maybe a little overwhelming in the beginning, but
yeah,
it gets easier. I remember when I was first, I'm like, okay, I have to prove all of this. I reached out to every single person that I could think of, and I'm like, I know this is weird, but I need your birth details. I need to know your name, your date, time, and city of birth. Give me anything that you can. A lot of them were like, yeah, okay, I guess so. But that's what you got to do. Like, it's good to talk to real people, celebrities, like looking at famous people's chart. You're not going to get very much information because you only know the surface version of that person. It's definitely, yeah, you want to talk to real people at a certain point. So, I mean, in your own chart, you can project too. You can see what you want to see.
Yeah, that is real. It took me a long time to look at my chart and not be weird about it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't see that. That's not real. Like, yeah, you have to have a level of honesty with yourself if you're going to look at your own chart. You have to. you can't, and if you're not sure, then it's something you have to go back to later, just don't decide on it right away. So yeah, you're right. I guess maybe using your own chart isn't like the best or only way.
It is. It's helpful. It's
celebrities
helpful.
Can be helpful too when that they have certain things happening in their life and you want to study transits and like if their life is pretty public, you should be able to pull some things out of there. But like the people closest to you are going to be the best ones. I have people who come into the where I work all the time, and I just pull their stuff up on Stellarium and we talk about it there. And I kind of just do freebase. I don't pull up a chart or anything. I just pull up Stellarium, or I'll put up like Cosmic Watch, and I'm like, what's going on? I know where everything is, so I know what's going on in their lives. And they're always like, how do you, oh my God. Because they don't know that mainstream astrology is 20 something degrees, almost 30 degrees off.
A symbolic construct.
That's a symbolic construct based on the seasons.
It's not based on the seasons.
Oh, it's not even based on that anymore. I don't then.
That's what they're saying. I think what they mean is the signs were given seasonal associations. But to say that, oh, it's based on the seasons, it's not true. Like that is not even a little bit true.
Yeah.
Because the seasons change with the stars. They change with precession. But I know it now what they're trying to say, but it's not factually correct.
Yeah. There you go. I've lost the verbiage for it at this point. Because I'm just at a loss for words. I was like, I can't believe we still have to, justify using Western Sidereal Astrology as a thing, you guys. Okay. It is a thing. It's normal to use the real sky and do Western astrology. It can be done. It
can for sure.
And we're doing it. And a lot of other people are doing it too. So yeah, check out our website. Check out all the awesome, cool podcasts we have lined up. We have, the Babylonian workshop that's going to be coming up. I think we'll have a really cool interview with Rumen Koloff.
I forgot the banner. Hold on, let me run it because I worked hard on it. There we go. I took it off, you guys, because we got the theme song up and going. Which I'm going to run again. Yeah,
Thank you.
And the outro when we go, don't jump off, you guys, because I'm going to play it here in a second when we go. I worked really hard on it in that I probably spent a full hour total of my life. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. But Dr. Rumen Koloff's coming on not next week, then the week after. He's going to be talking about Babylonian astrology. Now he is an expert. The Babylonian side, like once we get into like the middle to late Babylonian period, I definitely know quite a bit about it, but not to the extent that he does. So I'm like so super excited.
I am too.
Yes,
I am too.
Yes,
I've been looking up his stuff. He is incredible, and he has a really incredible following. So, you'll check him out, and we'll plug all of his stuff when he comes on the
Absolutely,
podcast.
We will.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you guys so much. I had fun. It was a good time.
Yes, I had fun too.
We'll be back next week on Sidereal Astrology, Myth, Magic, Mysteries, and more next week. But if you go on our events page on the ISAA site, you'll see when we have the next episode of Sidereal Rising podcast, which is going to be on Babylonian astrology. So we're trying to line them up with whatever workshop we're doing that month. So that's what's happening.
Perfect. Yeah. And we'll see you next week on the other show for the new moon.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. We'll be there or be square. All right. Here goes, you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Play the outro. You gonna do it?
We'll see you later, everybody.
Stay in the studio until one of the outro. But yeah. Stay in the studio. Play the outro and end the stream. All right. See you guys.
Under the real sky, the truth still burns. Ancient voices in the heavens turn. As the raw rises where the stars align. Restoring the wisdom lost in time. Two stars rose in the dawning light. Niki and Abbey lies on the night. Charting the heavens, the constellations true. Not bound by illusion, but by what's in view. But they whispered of summer, of gods in the flame. Of banana and Niki who called them by name. Through shadows of dogma, they carry the spark. Guided by starlight to rekindle the dark. Under the real sky, the truth still burns. Ancient voices in the heavens turn. ISAA rises where the stars align, restoring the wisdom lost in time. Under the real sky, the truth still burns. Ancient voices in the heavens turn. ISAA rises where the stars align, restoring the wisdom lost in time. Yeah. Maps redrawn where the cosmos spins through silence and science. Their song begins, no longer chained to the seasons' disguise. They brought back the truth in the watcher's eyes. The circle was broken, the truth made whole. With courage and reason, they honored the soul. For those who would seek what the ancients knew, the real sky speaks and the stars inside our real sky, the truth still burns. Ancient voices in the heavens turn. ISAA rises where the stars align, restoring the wisdom lost in time. Under the real sky, the truth still burns. Ancient voices in the heavens turn. ISAA rises where the stars align, restoring the wisdom lost in time. Through cuneiform echoes and lunar signs, through Babylon's gates and forgotten lines, they lifted the veil with a steady hand. To see is reborn to reclaim the land. Under the real sky, the vision's clear. The sidereal call for all to hear. ISAA rising with radiant mind, truth reborn in the ancient light. Inside our real sky, the truth still burns. Under the real sky, the truth